Hello and welcome to our new video. This is about unit costs and economies of scale. It's part of the business accounting set of videos. So firstly, we're going to look at average costs, which are also called unit costs. Unit being making one of whatever you make. So we've already looked at average costs when we compared average costs with marginal costs. The idea of average cost is to calculate how much it costs to make one item. So for example, if you're selling hot dogs, what is the cost of making one hot dog? Why is this information useful? It's very easy to calculate how much profit you're making. For example, if it costs 3 baht to make one hot dog for sale, the cost of the hot dog, the gas, the oil, the chili, and so on, and you sell the hot dog for 5 baht, it's very easy to see that you make 2 baht profit for every hot dog you sell. So how do we calculate unit costs? So here we have a table. So in the left-hand column, we have the different things that we buy to make our hot dogs. We buy a packet of hot dogs. The next column, you can see how much it costs. So 50 baht for hot dogs and the number of hot dogs that we can use it for. So 28 in a packet. And so you do 50, the cost, divided by the number 28 equals 1.78. So that is the cost of one hot dog. That's a hot dog, no oil, no chili, and so on. So for oil, it costs us 60 baht for half a liter, and that's enough for 200 hot dogs. So we do 60, the cost, divided by the number it will make, 200 equals 0.3. For chili, 25 baht for half a kilo, that's enough for 100 hot dogs. So we do 25 baht divided by 100 hot dogs equals 0.25. For gas, 10 baht for a potful, which is 28. So we do 10 divided by 28 equals 0.36. So then we add up the results from all those calculations, 1.78 plus 0.3 plus 0.25 plus 0.36, and the total is 2.69 baht. So we're selling for 5 baht. So our profit, 5 minus 2.69 equals 2.31 baht per hot dog that we sell. For each thing, you divide the cost by the number it will make. And the answer will be how much that thing costs for each hot dog. And you add up all the answers to find the total cost for each hot dog. So here's an exercise for you to do. The table on the left, the column, the hot dogs, oil, chili, gas, the same as before, but this time the cost to buy is bigger because the number you're buying is bigger. So I want you to work out the figures that go in the right-hand column, baht per hot dog. You might want to pause the video because I'm going to go on fairly quickly because otherwise the video will be very long and there will be long silent gaps. So, okay, I'm going to go on now. So, we have, for hot dogs in the right-hand column, we have 180, which comes from the second column, the number of baht, divided by 112, which is the number of hot dogs that we bought for 180 baht. And the answer is 1.6 baht per hot dog. For the oil, we paid 100 baht for 1 liter. That's enough to do 400 hot dogs. So 100 divided by 400 equals 0.25. For chili, we paid 80 baht for 2 kilos. That's enough for 400 hot dogs. So 80 divided by 400 equals 0.2. And for gas, 10 baht per pot full is 50. We can do in one pot. So 10 divided by 50 is 0.2. We add up all those answers, 1.6 plus 0.25 plus 0.2 plus 0.2 again, and it comes to 2.25. and that's the cost to make each hot dog. Selling price is 5 baht, so the profit per hot dog is 5 minus 2.25, which is 2.75 baht per hot dog. Now, we're just going to compare those two exercises, the first one that I did and then the one that you did. So in my demo exercise, the hot dogs cost 50 and we bought 28 and it came to 1.78 per hot dog. In the one that you did, the practice one, the hot dogs cost 180 and for that we got 112 hot dogs, which was equal to 1.6 baht per hot dog. For the oil, my version was 60 baht for 200, which came at 0.3 per hot dog. And for your practice version, it was 100 baht for enough for 400, so 1 divided by 400, 0.25. So we're going to compare yours versus mine now. It's cheaper per kilo or per liter or meter to buy big amounts than little amounts. So if you make a lot of hot dogs, the unit price per hot dog is less and the profit is bigger. So these are called economies of scale. Scale just means size. Because of the bigger numbers, it was cheaper to make the number in your practice than the smaller number in my demo. So in my demo, the total cost per hot dog was 2.69 baht, the selling price was 5 baht, and the profit was 2.31. In your practice, the total cost was 2.25, cheaper, selling price the same, 5 baht, and so your profit was 2.75, which was bigger. So the conclusion from this is the big guy who's making more will normally do better than the little guy. But economies of scale is not only about cheaper deals for buying bigger numbers. It is often much more efficient to do many things together at one time compared with doing them one by one. Think about shopping. For example, you're washing your clothes and you use the last of your laundry powder. You have just finished washing your clothes, so you don't need more laundry powder urgently. So here's a multiple choice question. Do you A, go immediately to the local shop, which is 1 kilometer from your house? Or B, write it down so that next time you remember to buy it next time you go to your local shop? Or C, write it down to buy next time you go to the big supermarket that is 5 kilometers from your home, where the prices are cheaper? So I'm picking that you chose number 3 because the price is better, but also because A is not a good option. You don't want to be visiting the shop many times for one thing every time. And there's no need to do that as long as you're well organized and buy things like laundry powder before you need them. This is an example of the efficiency benefits from economies of scale. It's usually more efficient to buy a lot of things on one shopping trip than to make lots of trips. The same is true if you are making things. If you're making chicken curry, you buy all the things you need, like chicken meat, chili, onions, etc., on one trip to the shops. You don't make a different trip for each thing. And if you make a lot of chicken curry at one time, it's easier than making many small amounts of chicken curry. Exactly the same is true if you're making computers or phones or cars. Many efficiencies are about transport. If you make computers and you buy hard drives from a different company, it's only a little bit harder to bring a lot of hard drives to your factory than bringing a small number. You need a bigger truck, but only one driver and the same number of hours driving for a big delivery or a small one. So now we're going to look at capacity. And again, we looked at this when we studied marginal costs. Do you remember the example we used about a machine that could make 100 ice creams, but it was only making 50, so only using 50% of the machine's capacity. That's not very efficient. Let's say the machine costs 20,000 baht, but you are only making half the number that the machine can make. You have to spread the cost of buying the machine over a smaller number of ice creams. And that means it costs you more to make each ice cream. If you were making 100 ice creams, you could spread the cost over more ice creams. Each one's share of the cost would be smaller. So conclusion, making 100 in this example would be more efficient, and you could make more ice creams at less cost per ice cream, less unit cost, compared with making only 50. That's an economy of scale. Now you could say that I should have bought a machine that costs only 10,000 baht and would make only 50 ice creams. So here we have a guy going to the computer shop, and the lady in the shop is saying, this computer can play music, games, do email, Word, Excel, and many, many other things. And the guy is saying, but in my business, I only need to run one program. Do you have a cheap computer that runs only one program? And she says to him, I'm sorry, sir, we only sell computers that do many things. But she is thinking, what planet is this guy from? So, conclusion, it's also not usually true that a machine that makes 100 ice creams costs twice as much as one that makes 50 ice creams. If a machine that makes 100 ice cream costs 20,000 baht, it's more likely that a machine that makes only 50 ice creams would cost, say, 15,000 baht, not 10,000 baht. The result is that buying the machine that makes 100 means the cost you have to add to each ice cream is a lot smaller, and then you can sell them cheaper or make more profit. That's another economy of scale. Things like economies of scale will lead to a few things. Firstly, specialization. What does that mean? It means you do your thing, I'll do mine. We'll look at it a little bit more in a second. Secondly, mergers and acquisitions. Two businesses join together to make one bigger business. And thirdly, the little guys will try to fight against economies of scale. So let's look at specialization. You do your thing, I do mine. Here's an example. So Win2 and No2A are students. They both sell food at lunchtimes to other students. Each of them sells a choice of hot dog or noodles. There are 200 students, and 2A and Win2 are equally successful. The number of hot dogs and noodles they sold is 50% each. So they only have enough money to buy one day's supply at a time. So example 2. So Win2 sells only hot dogs and No2A sells only noodles. So the result, 2A sells 100 noodles and Win2 sells 100 hot dogs. The cost of 2A cooking 100 noodles is less than double the cost of cooking 50 because of economies of scale. As a result, she makes more profit than selling 50 noodles and 50 hot dogs. The same is true for Win2 selling 100 hot dogs. So, conclusion, economies of scale encourage specialization. Second one, mergers and acquisitions. This is joining or buying. So merger is where two businesses agree to join together. So for example, there are two print shops in Popra. They agree to join together and work from a new shop. Each shop used to sell 50 packets of photocopy paper per week. 50 packets cost 60 baht per packet, but now they can buy 100 packets for 100 baht per packet. So that compares with before they had to pay 120 for two packets of 50 at 60 baht each. So by joining together, they can make more profit from selling the same amount of paper. Acquisition is also two businesses joining together, but where one business buys the other one. In the print shop example, if the owner of one shop wants to move to Mesa, he might sell the shop to the owner of the other shop. So they join together, the effect on paper costs is the same. Okay, so the big guys have an advantage. They can do things cheaper. How can the little guys fight back? The biggest thing they can do is provide better service. So, Noah Musapur has a business selling cooking gas in bottles in Popra. Customers bring their empty bottle and she exchanges it for a full one. The charge is 380 baht. Solapo has a similar business in Murujai. He decides to open another shop in Popra because if he buys twice as much gas, the cost of each bottle will go down and he can make bigger profit. Musapur has a problem. When Lapo's shop opens, she will lose some of her customers. Lapo could cut the price of gas from his shop at any time and all her customers would go. Noor Musapur decides that she will go to her customer's house to exchange bottles. So her customers like this because they don't have to take their heavy bottle to her shop. Noor Musapur will have a lower profit because of the cost of petrol, but she will keep her customers. Another thing that smaller businesses do, they can go to a different location, to smaller villages that the bigger businesses aren't interested in. So for example, if there are 100 customers in Popra, 100 in Sao and 50 in Murachai, bigger firms will choose to have shops in Popra and Sao because it gives economies of scale, 200 customers, but not in Murachai because it's too small. So the little guy can survive by having a shop in Murachai. He or she may be able to charge more than the big guy, as long as it's still cheaper for her customers to buy in Murachai than the cost of buying in Popra plus the cost of petrol to get there and back. So let's look at the effects of economies of scale. Many industries have very big economies of scale. For example, economies of scale explain why most of the airplanes in the world are made in just a few countries. The economies of scale are so big that it doesn't make sense for each country to make their own. Cars, motorbikes, banks, petrol refining and chemicals, most food processing, and many other industries show big economies of scale. Economies of scale also depend on suitable transport. So for example, when refrigerated trucks were first made, it allowed fruit and vegetables to be transported much further from the farm without being spoiled. The result was that a lot of small local packing and processing plants closed down because all the farm produce went to a big plant further away. One of the economic benefits of big scale is that machines can be used to do some jobs that would be done by people in a smaller factory. So for example, there used to be 4 factories packing apples near where they grew. Now, because of better transport, there is 1 factory further away. Each of the 4 old factories had 3 people making boxes because there was not enough work to keep a machine busy. In the new factory, they have a machine to make the boxes because there's 4 times the work there that there was in the old factories. The result is fewer jobs. Economies of scale also shape our world in more subtle ways. Subtle means not obvious. Huge factories need huge amounts of money to set up. Only a few companies can raise such big amounts. This means a lot of businesses can't afford to set up big factories. The small companies go out of business and more of economic power is in the hands of fewer and fewer companies. So, summary. Economies of scale have a big effect on many people's lives. They result in huge multinational businesses, which are the working environment for many people. Economies of scale are also responsible, at least partly, for the low price that we pay for things like clothes. Transport. The limit of economies of scale For example, how big a factory can get before it makes more sense to have two smaller factories in different places. It depends a lot on the cost of transport. Depends on the size and weight of the product. For example, you could buy a mobile phone in Thailand that was made in Sweden, which is very far away. You're much less likely to buy cement from Sweden. The difference is that a phone is light and easy to send from Sweden to Thailand by air at a small cost. Bags of cement are big and heavy and expensive to transport. They probably go by sea, not by air. If you're in Thailand, you probably buy cement from somewhere much closer. And the logic doesn't only work for finished products like phones, it also applies to inputs, things that your factory needs to make whatever it makes. But not always. If your factory is making bottles of water, it needs to be located near where the water comes from, because water is heavy and expensive to move and can easily get dirty on the way if you don't take a lot of care. For bottling water, there are not big economies of scale. In most situations, there is a limit on how much water you can take before it starts to affect the environment and farmers and so on. So huge factories that need huge amount of water won't work. Summary. There are some areas where big businesses perform worse than small businesses. These are called diseconomies of scale, the opposite of economies of scale. Big businesses are often slow at decision making, and decisions have to go through a lot of levels of managers, and it takes a long time. This means that smaller businesses can adapt to changes in the business situation much quicker. This is one way small businesses can compete with big businesses, which have economies of scale on their side. It's a bit like a big, heavy boxer fighting a smaller, lighter boxer. The big guy has a lot of power, and if he hits the small guy with a good punch, it could be all over. But if the small guy is quick enough and fit enough, he can punch the big guy and move too fast for the big guy to catch him. And this is the end, my friend. See you next time.